Hi. By the time I'm writing this, I think it's been long enough and safe for me to share this story with you guys. For security purposes, I'm not going to use any real names. By the time this happened, I was 12F and my friend was 11F and her younger sister, who was around 6 or 7. We had our 2 dogs, both still puppies at the time, and we wanted to go on a walk. So we went to a forest thinking it would be the perfect time to get a sunset photo. Mind you, to access this forest, you had to walk through a neighborhood, and I was pretty familiar with this neighborhood at the time, so I didn't really think anything of it. I had already walked my dog in that area numerous amount of times. To enter the forest, there is a gated fence, however, before that it's a slightly abandoned road which we walked down to enter. Keep in mind, this wasn't the real way to enter the forest, and there was a different entrance, but this route was quicker, so there was no one around us. Me and my friend's younger sister decided to run, and we were laughing, and I remember vividly me holding my dog and opening the gate and letting my friend's sister through the gate. By this time, we were running away from my friend as a joke, and after we went through the gate, there was a narrow path to the big field where I had planned to take the photo, so we had rushed there, and I thought this whole time my friend was behind us. However, she wasn't. She had took the wrong path after exiting the neighborhood and reached an alleyway. Meanwhile, I took some photos of the breathtaking view of the golden sun setting. However, my dog, he's always very happy and friendly, however this time, he was whining and looking behind. He never acts like this, so I was confused. I turned back and noticed my friend wasn't there. Sarah? That isn't her real name. I called loudly. No response. So I grabbed her sister's hand and ran. I felt the panic that my dog felt and ran so fast Sarah's sister complained her hand hurt. I sprinted down the narrow path and swung open the old run-down gate and saw Sarah running. She grabbed my hand so painfully I couldn't process it. Her dog was with her, so I didn't assume anything bad would happen. But boy, was I wrong. She grabbed me and her sister, and the dogs were on leashes, and we all ran. I don't remember how long, but it was long. We sprinted all the way until we felt we were safe in a park about 1 minute away from my house. While we ran, I asked her what the hell was happening, and she talked to me in a tone I knew we were in danger. At the park, we sat on a bench, and Sarah explained what happened. This is what I remember she said. I was walking, and after I left that neighborhood, I couldn't see you guys, so I assumed you went in that alleyway. So I went down there calling your name. I saw a man instead. He was tall, dressed in all black, and he didn't seem friendly. So I turned around to run, and he grabbed my hair. I thank God for having my dog with me, because he growled and bit the man's leg, and I ran back shaking from what was happening. And he was behind me. I knew he was, so I grabbed you and ran. By this, I was so shocked I started crying. I could see the pain in her eyes. From then on, I never wanted to see that man again. A few years later, me and several other friends went down that same route, and an elderly woman who was walking in that area warned us to be careful because a man who seemed under the influence swore at her and didn't seem friendly. After that, I yelled at my friends to get the heck out of there. To the man dressed in black, let's not meet again. This is a story from when I was in 8th grade, or around that time. Honestly, I feel a bit stupid bringing it up here, but I've never told anyone, not family, not friends equals, and I just want to let it out somewhere. Up until high school, I usually went home with my friend, me walking and her trotting alongside on her bike. The walk home from school was in a relatively safe area, surrounded by other schools, supermarkets, churches, and little houses, so I never felt unsafe during that 10-minute walk. Not even on that one particular day when my friend had to ride ahead, and I was left walking home alone. About halfway through my usual route, I suddenly had this unsettling feeling, like someone was watching me. I turned my head toward the street next to me and saw a car driving noticeably slower than it should have been. I actually looked it up on Google Maps out of curiosity, and the speed limit on that street was 30 kilometers per hour. But this car was moving so slowly, it looked like it was floating, like it was trying to match my pace. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, as I mentioned, there were schools and even a kindergarten in the area. I just assumed it was a parent looking for a parking spot to pick up their kid. But things started to feel a bit creepy when the driver's window rolled down and the man behind the wheel looked directly at me. My memory of that moment has grown a bit fuzzy over time, but what I remember clearly is a man with short, dark hair and an unsettling, wide smile. It's that smile that stuck in my memory the most. It didn't fade for a second. The situation was bizarre, and I couldn't fully process what was happening, so I just turned my head and looked straight ahead. But to my shock, he kept staring. That same horrifying, twisted smile plastered across his face. He continued creeping along next to me, not speeding up. It felt like an eternity. I didn't know what to do. Everything about the situation felt surreal. I looked around to see if maybe he was looking at someone else, or if anyone else noticed how creepy this was. But I remember people just walking by normally, as if nothing strange was happening. My only comfort was that people were around at all, because by that point, I was getting genuinely scared and still struggling to register what was happening. I even thought about calling out to some guy walking in front of me, but was too shy to say anything. Out of curiosity and fear, I started walking even slower. I could have sworn I saw a flicker of disappointment on his face before he finally drove away. It all felt like a nightmare. I felt relieved watching the car disappear down the road. But then, as I reached the crossroad that led to the street I lived on, he appeared again. He was back, driving just as slowly, window down. That same grotesque, unnatural smile stretched across his face. At that point, I was so stunned I froze for a moment and looked directly at him. I was trying to convince myself this was really happening and not something I was making up. Maybe he was someone I knew, a friend of my parents, an old teacher trying to say hello. But no, this was real. This man was practically twisting his entire upper body to look at me through the car window. I didn't know him. That smile was still unbearably creepy, and I had no idea what he wanted. Even worse, I realized something. From the direction he was now coming from, he must have driven in a circle around the block just to appear again on the street I was about to enter. The street where I lived. My home was only a minute away. He was still driving well below 30 kilometers per hour. Still saying nothing. Still staring. As I stood there, trying to comprehend how real and dangerous this was, I felt a wave of fear wash over me. This creep could be trying to figure out where I lived. The street was lined with houses, but there wasn't a single other person around. Just him and me. All I wanted was for this nightmare to end. It was just way he wasn't saying anything. Just looking into my face that scared the hell out of me. Thankfully, he never stopped the car completely. He just kept creeping along slowly. Eventually, he drove past far enough that I could finally cross the street. At that point, I couldn't care about anything else. I told myself that if he came near me again, I'd scream. I ran straight home. Even while running, I could swear he was still twisting his body to keep his eyes on me, still smiling that awful smile as he drove away. I was genuinely terrified. The incident traumatized me. I knew I hadn't imagined it. I kept checking, kept thinking about it over and over again. I was so scared he'd figured out where I lived that I refused to go to school or leave the house for days. I remained on edge for weeks, always half expecting him to show up again. I've thought about this moment so many times. Did he know me? Then why didn't he say anything? Why did he just smile like that? I even felt ashamed for wearing a skirt that day, thinking maybe he was just some creep lurking around. But no matter what, the whole situation was terrifying. Now I'm an adult, still living with my parents in the same place, though I have no reason to walk that old route anymore. I've never seen that man again, and I've never experienced anything as creepy or strange as that day. All that's been haunting me is his creepy smile, and how I'll never quite understand how this horror movie story actually happened to me. I never told my parents or my friends, especially not my mom. She's always been very overprotective, and I knew if I told her, she'd probably have started walking me to school again like I was a kindergartner. And my friends back then probably wouldn't have believed me anyway. So now that I've finally gotten this off my chest, creepy car guy, I'm glad I never saw you again, and I hope it stays that way. I just genuinely hope you never did this or something worse to any other kid. Ever. This story isn't too long as the span of the entire encounter is well below an hour, but it definitely felt longer in that situation. When I was 18, I was dating my then girlfriend at the time who had really strict parents, which often resulted in me traveling to her place every weekend so we can meet up and be together. Her place is around 30 to 50 minutes to get to through public transportation as I live in the city, and the subways can have pretty bad delays randomly. This one particular day was no different. I go to her place, we hang out, and it's time for me to make it home. I also have particularly strict parents that don't let me out past a certain time, so I have to rush back home. When I had arrived to the train station, I realized I forgot my Metro card and just decided to hop the turnstile as I'm racing to get back home. Upon doing so, I immediately locked eyes with this stranger just on the other side of the gate. This stranger is a man that seemed to be in his 30-40s with darker complexion and a beaten white tank top and disheveled grayish hair. I seemed to have caught his attention while he was in the middle of yelling, which caused him to stop. I didn't think much of it as I have my headphones on, and I'm a person that usually keeps to myself, so I continue further down the platform. I walked just a tiny bit forward and realized the man was possibly following me. I thought I could just be paranoid, so I continued to walk down the platform until I stopped next to a pillar, to which the man stopped as well, just pacing behind me back and forth talking to himself. At that point I realize I'm being followed by someone that doesn't seem well, and I'm on an empty platform with around 2 to 4 people and isolated from said other passengers. I was pretty close to the edge given how I'm standing next to the platform, and I didn't know what to do. The trains were delayed, and if I continued to walk down the platform, I would have hit a dead end. I chose to FaceTime my brother after texting him the situation in real time and held my phone in front of me so he can see behind me without me checking while he updated me in my earbuds. According to him, the man was staring at me and pacing back and forth in an erratic manner, with his behavior growing increasingly aggressive by the second. At this point, I was shaking. Despite living in the city, I don't experience much of anything in this caliber, maybe for a crazy homeless guy once or twice. I continued to walk down the platform while on FaceTime as the man continued to follow me before I gave up and settled behind a pillar once again. I was frantically checking the train times at this point, hoping it would just arrive so I can get out of this situation while the man continued to yell. After around 10 more minutes, the train finally pulled up to the station in a very slow pace. As the train stopped at the platform, the man gave up and walked away as I walked further down the platform to ensure I'm not in the same cart as him. I was annoyed at how slow the train was driving, but thinking back on it now, it was a good thing. According to my brother, he was waiting for the train to come so he can push me down into the tracks, and seemingly gave up after seeing just how slow the train was approaching. I believe he wanted to try and rob me if anything. So, to the man that tried to push me onto the tracks, let's not ever meet again.